out of nowhere. You were right there, stood right by me. I know your face. Yeah, you got my back like a jetpack. You boost me up, like outer space. And we're dancing through the stars. That's how we came to be. Won't you dance through the stars with me? Hey, we're dancing through the stars. That's all we really do. Wanna dance through the stars with you. Ooh. We're designed to think to survive. You help me zoom out when you arrive. We're the same things, all just starlings. My darling earthlings, don't you feel alive? 'Cause we're dancing through the stars. That's how we came to be. Won't you dance through the stars with me? Hey, we're dancing through the stars. That's all we really do. Wanna dance through the stars with you. Everywhere we go, we're dancing through the stars. Everyone we know, we're dancing through the stars. Every kiss we steal, everything we feel, we're dancing through the stars. We are, yeah. We're designed to think to survive. You help me zoom out when you arrive. We're the same things, all just starlings. My darling earthling, don't you feel alive? 'Cause we're dancing through the stars. That's how we came to be. Won't you dance through the stars with me? Hey, we're dancing through the stars. That's all we really do. Wanna dance through the stars with you. Out of nowhere, you were right there, stood right by me. I knew your face. Yeah, you're my hero. T-0. We're taking off now, back to our place. 'Cause we're dancing through the stars. That's how we came to be. Won't you dance through the stars with me? Hey, we're dancing through the stars. That's all we really do. Wanna dance through the stars with you. Everywhere we go, we're dancing through the stars. Everyone we know, we're dancing through the stars. Every kiss we steal, everything we feel, we're dancing through the stars. We are, here we are, we are, we are. Here we are, we are, we are. Sing along. Here we are, we are, we are. Here we are, we are, we are on a Sunday. Here we are, we are, we are. Here we are on a Sunday here in Fallbrook. Thank you, everybody. Welcome, welcome. We got a special guest musician today. I want to have everyone give a warm welcome to Ria Macchi. How do you say it? Macchiaris. Ria Macchiaris.
Macaris. Easier than it looks.
Okay. Macchiaris.
Macaris.
Well, that was
we did a show together at a restaurant about 2 weeks ago, and I thought everyone here is going to love the energy that she throws down. And she's a part of a band called the Bella Lunas that when they do a live show, that one of the members does ASL for the lyrics, and it's just she spreads joy and mindfulness with the event she puts on, and just a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Happy to be here.
So good morning, everybody. I need to get my quote up here for our question of the day, which I'll get to in just a second. But let me do what's going on with us first. So first of all, I want to welcome everybody here. I want to give a special welcome to Colorado. Hello, Brigitte. We love you. Everybody say we love you, Brigitte. She's been feeling hello, Oregon. We love you too. Hello, California, here and there and everywhere, and New York. So anyway, we're just glad this is our online community. So I'm just thrilled to have you guys here in the in the Webernet. So it's nice to have you guys here. And let's see, a couple things going on that you want to know, or I think you should want to know. You made it all the way home and back, Marilyn? Oh, she went and bought. Oh, I was saying, no, you don't have to go anywhere. I thought you said you were going home, and then I saw you walk. You went home?
Well, no, but I went halfway and bought 2 new ones that would take too much time.
That's what I thought. You walked in, I thought, my God, that woman flies low. But you do know that Marilyn, one of her close personal friends is Mario Andretti. So it would not have been impossible for her to have driven to Bonsall and back in 20 minutes. Yeah, so I was surprised but not amazed. So anyway, let's see what's going on today. So we got going on. So after service, Kurt and Deanna are preparing a barbecue for us outside because it's just too nice to be inside. So they're going to be grilling and cooking and doing all that other kind of stuff. So fabulous to have that. So please stay for that. There is the book study. Is this the last Sunday of the book study? No, 2 more weeks. 2 more weeks for the book study. That's going down. May 4th, we have a concert. May 3rd, we have a concert.
Fairview Canyon.
Fairview Canyon.
Amazing local band.
They're amazing.
Yeah,
They-
harmonies.
Yeah, Fairview
song.
Canyon, they are phenomenal. They really, really are a phenomenal band. So anyway, they're here. We're having a concert, party, play, whatever we want to call that kind of thing. So please check that out. My classes are on there, but they're not. I don't see anything there. But anyway, but I know about my class. So I'm going to be teaching a class online on spiritual practices. It will be dealing with the practices of, that's this one. So starting May 27th, on Sundays, monthly on Sundays, I'm going to be doing a new thought in the world conversation. So there's the book study, and so on once a month, I'm going to be doing conversations on new thought in the world. So we'll take principles of new thought and how they're applying in the world that we are today. An example of, we hold a vision of a world that works for everyone. How's that working for us? So we'll just kind of discuss these and kind of go deep on them as we can. So that will be starting on April 27th after that. But then Spiritual Practices is the online class that I'm doing. That starts Tuesday, May 6th. And we're going to be dealing with principles of contemplation, meditation, and prayer. Those of you who are interested in studying to become a practitioner, it is a class that you would want to take. But for anybody else that wants to deepen their spiritual practice or explore different avenues of spiritual practice, I'm really excited to be teaching this class. I've been doing some work on it, and I'm just kind of sitting with this idea that I'm going to talk about today, the difference between fascination and contemplation. What that looks like. So that's going on. We talked about Fairview Canyon. They're happening. Let's see what else is going on. We've also got open board meeting on April 14th. It's 6 p.m. here at the Hilltop Center. That's a Monday night. We'd like to keep our board meetings open to anybody and everybody. So if you're interested in seeing what's happening in the life of the center, the business of the center, please come join us Monday, April 16th. Untethered Soul, we've talked about. Thank you, Jeff. What did I say? 16th? Okay. No, that's good.
We need more of that.
So it's helpful for me because I'm just a little bit dyslexic. So, especially when it comes to numbers. So we have a beautiful Earthrise or something there. I'm not quite sure what that is. But we also have, but that reminds me, we have Kirtan every other Sunday, is it, Magdalena? And it was today, so it's not next Sunday. But it'll be on Easter Sunday, which is in 2 weeks. Can you believe that? 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, yeah. Yeah, next week is Palm Sunday. For anybody that keeps score. And then the following week is Easter Sunday. Yeah, so that's going on. Then we also have Well-Being in the Tao, Sundays from 9 to 10 a.m. with Jim Jones, the naturalist. Anything you want to say about that? I'm so glad it's there. Okay, fabulous. Okay, good. So, Open Mind Gift Store is open, and they've got cool things going on. So, for anybody that wants to know, we do a Sunday question. So if you look at the newsletter that comes out Sunday morning, we're starting to send it out because we send it out to the practitioners and to Lee and the Jim and everybody else, so that we can so if you want to look at what the question is, so that you can be prepared. Otherwise, you can be extemporaneous, which is encouraged. So here is the quote, and here comes the question. This is from the remarkable man, James Baldwin. I know.
Got excited.
Blessed be he. The longer I have the privilege of learning about working towards peace and justice, the more convinced I am of the power of imagination and joy in creating a future of liberation. Let me read that again, because that's just so rich. The longer I have the privilege of learning about and working toward peace and justice, the more convinced I am of the power of imagination and joy in creating a future of liberation. So here's the question. What does the imagination and the joy of creating a future of liberation look like for you? And the question is keep it personal. Is there a personal liberation that joy and imagination are factoring in? So, Jim, you sound like you might be ready.
I'm tempted to take over again, but I'll keep it short. So as a modern day hippie, of course, liberation is something that's always kind of top of mind for me. And it's interesting because if we just replace the guy on top, we've just switched who's on the bottom, and that's not really the solution. We need a change in thinking. And for me, I see this as a distinction between short-term thinking and long-term thinking. And the problem is that there's advantages to short-term thinking, especially from a self-interested perspective. So for me, the imagination and joy come from, interestingly, the book of the Tao Te Ching, because it really does focus on this exact question, and how do we wrestle with that trap of short-term thinking, have an immediate benefit. And that's really stirred my imagination, and my joy comes from being able to teach about such things. And it just so happens that next week is almost exactly this topic. So if you want to explore it further from the perspective of the Tao Te Ching, join us next Sunday at 9 a.m. You said to keep it personal.
Thanks, Jim. I love that you chose James Baldwin, probably my all-time favorite author, and an American gem, a gold mine of information and knowledge about the past. But for me, you know, imagination, creativity is a part of my life. But what I've learned is that it's a discipline. It sounds like it's fun, and it's just this thing that pops up, and often when it does just pop up, it's a great thing. But if you don't cultivate the imagination and cultivate the joy, the sadness and the grief is going to come, and the joy and the imagination is going to fall behind. So it's a matter of staying disciplined, creating spaces, creating situations where your joy and creativity can come through purposefully. So remembering that fear, grief is going to pop up, and if we don't actively cultivate those things, they'll take over. And so to add to James Baldwin's quote, one of his other quotes is that fear and anxiety, well, he says it's all that kind of stuff is the price of the ticket. And so just remembering that the fear pops up, that's the price of the ticket of being alive. And so then you manifest joy purposefully.
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, first of all, Lee and I have talked about James Baldwin a lot. The first thing that came to mind with joy and liberation is it starts with me. So, like, I'm sure we all want to make an impact, a big impact on the world, right? We want everyone to be free, but it has to start with me. And I think it starts with noticing how much I'm over here having a conversation with myself and not being with other people. Specifically, you said personal. I was like, I'm going to get real personal. Yesterday, having a conversation with my housemate, and I realized there were things we hadn't talked about with each other, and there was something between us, right? And I'm over here in a conversation with myself about what she needs to be doing, and blah, blah, blah. And then when we actually talked, I was like, oh, oh, I get to hear what she said, and I was with her, and then it was like, talk about joy and liberation. It wasn't in the house until I got out of my own head and I was with her. So I just wanted to share that it's something I'm practicing because I'm in a conversation with myself all the time. And it's not, there's no freedom in it, really. It's super constraining. I think I know everything, and then I get out with somebody else, and it's like, that's freedom. To let go of being right, to be with another person. And I think if we all started there with ourselves, it's just going to spread like crazy. So I'll share that.
Craig. You have one?
Thank you, Reverend Guy. Well, mine is very much like yours, Rhea, in that when I contemplate liberation and our world and what appear to be the circumstances of suffering and so much, I am overwhelmed and often feel somewhat powerless. So, rather than focus on that so much, I just look around me, particularly to my children, to my wife, to you guys, whoever I have an opportunity to be with. And I know there is a great reservoir of love and compassion and the ability to listen. So I really try to turn that up and not focus so much externally, or even like Rhea was saying, on my internal dialogue, but just doing my best to be present, and that always brings me joy. So that's it.
Okay, anybody out there? We got hands coming up.
I'll start in the back, so. Did you ever? Oh, you're faking it, huh? Faking it, huh? Anyone else? Anyone?
All of this, I agree, is an inside job. Number one, I can't control the world, the United States, any other thing that's really troubling me with discord, and there's a lot out there. So I keep thinking about what Sister Teresa said, that she doesn't want to be against something, she wants to be for something. And I also know that I don't have the power to influence the world, but I do have the power to influence myself, coming from love, creating imagination, creating all of the aspects as an artist that I want to. So that's how I can contribute to the United States and the world at large, through my energy of love.
So I'm going with the word liberation. And what ties me in a knot is when I have something going on inside of my head and I am not communicating it to somebody else. But I've practiced this many years now, that just doesn't work for me. My flow is stifled. So I fortunately have very good people around me who I love dearly, and I could clear an energy of liberation within me by sharing whatever is going on in my head or my heart that just doesn't set right. And when I liberate myself, I have a deeper relationship with them, and I don't know where the imagination fits in there, but I know for liberation, for me, it will bring me joy.
Beautiful. Anyone else? Anyone else?
Well, I'd like to chime in since
Good.
I have the mic and I'm ready. No. I think it, yeah, like you were saying, your name again? I'm sorry, I'm like spacey. I don't.
Reverend Guy. Oh.
Rhea? So like what Rhea was saying, it starts with this myself, and I work at the schools, and I was in one of the classrooms a few weeks ago, and I was like monitoring the children, and on the wall there was a saying that said, "Be curious and not judgmental." And I was like, I know that saying. It's mentioned at Sunday service, and I told the teacher, I was like, is that Tolkien? And then she's like, no, Ted Lasso. And I was like, yeah. I was like, okay. I was like, okay, well, it's kind of like Tolkien, I guess. But so I was thinking how, that's be curious and not judgmental. And I think the imagination comes where, where I would think about, what this person has gone through, like myself, and the saying that everyone is fighting a hard battle, you know, and just to be curious about that. And we're all going through it. Everyone has their own set of challenges, including myself. So,
Very good. So bonus point. So Ted Lasso got that saying from whom? Walt Whitman.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you very much. Walt Whitman. Okay, I think Magdalena had her hand back there.
yeah, sure. Need to burn the calories in.
I love all those words: imagination, joy, creativity. For me, like Gandhi's statement, be the change you want to see in the world. Like 5 years ago, I took that really seriously, and I was working on a lot of like toxic, wounded, masculine, patriarchal stuff, and started going more into the feminine, softening. And sure enough, that brought out the joy and the creativity and the childlike innocence and playfulness. So that's been really helpful for me.
All righty. Anyone else? Anyone else? Yep, there you go.
Hi, a lot of my passion and my strongest passion and purpose is to facilitate connection in other people with themselves and with others. And what I feel so grateful and joyful about is seeing the impact, the transformation that occurs, and the difference in the quality of life and connection with other people that occurs when people are more connected within themselves and connected with others. It's great. Great work. I love my work.
All right. Thank you, everybody. All right, Craig, you want to bring us into service then? Thank you.
I sure do. You know, Reverend Guy, thank you for facilitating this sharing. I just think it's an awesome way for us to affirm and embody the way we're connected just by listening and sharing. So I really appreciate that. Okay, so welcome to the Hilltop Spiritual Center. I'm really joyous to be here and to serve as your practitioner. And it's always good to bless this with a prayer. So I invite you, whatever way you like to be in that presence, just allow yourself to get there. Certainly recognizing that you've been blessed with this beautiful body, so just let it relax. Let it really be this temple of your soul. And as you quiet, as you just draw that infinite attention within, let us know that there is indeed in this moment, in this place, as there is everywhere, at all times, just a magnificence, divine presence. That which is beyond names, I call it God. It's beyond description, and yet books, poems, so much is written to ascertain its beauty, its glory, its love, its compassion, its intelligence, its wisdom. Let us just know, let us just feel, let us just recognize it is here. In fact, it is all that there is. There's nothing against it or outside of it. It is. And let us also realize, let us also embody that it is our life, that we are one with all that it is and is becoming, for it is ever expanding, for it is the power of love, that givingness that just begets the universe, and so us. And there is peace in knowing that we are inseparable from it. It's the very essence of our being. And so we recognize it also all around us. We recognize it as we gather together. We feel its affirmation just in the joy of being and sharing and listening. And the beauty of this music and the words that we share and that Reverend Guy shares. For all of this, we give thanks. So it is. And I know Reverend Guy is embarking on a quarterly theme now, right, Reverend Guy? And we're exploring virtue. And when I heard that Friday, although I did hear it also in last week's service that I listened to, the prayer of St. Francis came to me because it speaks so much to the capacity we have as humans to embody virtue. So that's our reading for today. And after our reading, we'll just take a little time. You'll hear the the bowl, the beautiful bowl ring, and that'll just be an invitation to take these words within yourself. Contemplate how virtue wants to manifest as you. So it goes like this. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, let there be pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born into life. So I invite you just to go within and know these truths for yourself and for the world. And so you are invited to bring that beautiful, loving attention of yours back to this celebration.
Little morning reflection can be humbling. Not that I expect perfection. Lately I've been stumbling, but if I obsess too long, the best of me is gone. 'Cause I've been thinking of past and what's to come. They take me away from the beauty of today. I'm here right now. Here right now. I don't wanna miss one moment. No longer will I love in vain. As long as I'm living, breathing, I'll take the sun and rain. The illusion of control. Learning how to let go. 'Cause I've been thinking of the past and what's to come. But they take me away from the magic of today. Sing it with us. I'm here right now. Here right now. Here right now. Here right now. And if I obsess too long, the best of me is gone. 'Cause I've been thinking of the past and what's to come. But they take me away from the beauty of today. 'Cause I'm here right now. 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 Thanks.
It's Rhea. All right, we leave the stage now. Thanks, Walter. Oh, yes. Please keep your hands together for our Reverend Guy Williams, Dr. Guy Williams.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks,
Walter. I know. That was lovely. Thank you so much, Ray. Oh my goodness gracious. Original. Oh my goodness gracious, that just sent chills through me. It's beautiful. So something that Craig said a few minutes ago is that we're doing sort of our spring theme. Our quarterly theme is going to be on virtues, but I'm kind of framing it with a title of a book that kind of has something to do with it, but maybe not a whole lot. So anyway, our theme for the month, the quarter, is One Simple Idea, and it actually comes from a book by an author by the name of Mitch Horowitz, and he wrote this incredibly readable book on the history of New Thought and New Thought people. And you know, what's good about Mitch Horowitz is he's both a practitioner of New Thought, and he's also not a critic, but he's also, you know, he's a reasonable individual that explores it. And one of the things what I enjoy about the book has something to do with this idea. I was thinking about it this week, because I'm reading another book, and the other book that I'm reading is a science fiction book. It's called Galileo's Dream by a man by the name of Kim Stanley Robbins. You know Kim Stanley Robbins? Love this book. Anyway, I was thinking about Galileo, because of course that's what you do when you read a book about Galileo. And you know, Galileo is considered the father of the scientific method or scientific thought of science as we understand it in the West. And you know, when I think about Galileo, I don't think that he wrote the final word on anything. He introduced ideas that these ideas were so profound that they can continue to evolve out, much like maybe Socrates or Aristotle or Freud or Madame Curie or whoever the case may be. You know, they have these ideas, and yet we continue to evolve, don't we? We continue to learn more, and as we continue to spiral, more evidence is revealed in things. And it's the very same thing with New Thought. You know, Ernest Holmes wrote the Science of Mind text in the second edition of it was in 1938. That was a long time ago, and a few things we have learned since then. But one of his teachers was a woman by the name of Emma Curtis Hopkins. And again, brilliant woman, lovely woman, not the final word, but one of the things that she said that I would offer as one simple idea is this: our good is our God. Our good is our God. The thing that we are seeking is seeking us. And the thing, you know, something that David Foster Wallace says is he says, you know, there's no such thing as an atheist, because we all have a belief in something, whatever that something may be, and that will continue to ripple out to us wherever we may go with it. And I just want to make a thing here, two things. Trigger alert. You know, I'm going to talk about God today. And I know God triggers people because I don't necessarily call God God, but I'm going to say, I've said God 3-4 times so far, and it's probably going to slip out more. But you know, if the word triggers you, it's probably because you were exposed to really bad theology or how someone abuses that concept. And I just want to offer that very may well be there. The other thing that, you know, something that Magdalena brought up, I think, which is important for us to recognize, is that we live in a pretty patriarchal society. And, you know, it has its roots all the way back to Greek philosophy, back to Aristotle, because Aristotle really thought women were sort of, he didn't even consider them second class, he barely considered them, you know, the same species. And what happened is in the West, and particularly in the bad theology that we all grew up with, is that Aristotle's ideas crept in, and we used the lens of Aristotle to read ancient Hebrew poetry and legends and stories that really had nothing to do with what Aristotle was saying. But you know how you kind of have an idea on something, and then you superimpose that on something else, and all of a sudden you're making stories up about something that are based on something that have absolutely nothing to do with the original story? Does that make sense? We all kind of are prone to that. And so I think, it's just worthy of us to play in the arena of what I heard in the questioning so much, is paying attention to the conversation we're having with ourselves. Because let's face it, every experience that we have had in our life has determined the perception of how we see things around us. Again, going back to Emma Curtis Hopkins, where she says, the world in which we live is a direct reflection of our thoughts. And I think that there's some truth in that. So I just kind of want to hold that thought as we talk about something called hope as a spiritual practice. And what got me thinking about that is a little dachshund by the name of Valerie. Has anybody followed this story? It was in the New York Times. So not that makes it anything other than, you're nodding your head, you know the story? Yeah. So what happened about 16 months ago, according to the New York Times, is this couple in Australia went to this island called Kangaroo Island, what they've actually renamed because it was actually named something worse, not worse, but kind of, it's called the Island of the Dead. So they changed it to Kangaroo Island because that sounds much better. Anyway, these people brought their little dachshund, Valerie, 16 months ago to this island. And little Valerie got out of her crate, her cage, and she ran off into the bushes. And they couldn't find her, and they stayed for days looking for this little dog. And finally they thought, here we are on this desolate island, God help us. And they had to go home, and they mourned Valerie. Well, what has happened just very recently is Valerie is running around on the island. Well, and she's kind of gone native in the sense that she's very elusive, and they can't catch her. But apparently, according to the article, they're using whatever drones and whatever technology they can have to find, and hopefully, Valerie will be united with her family. So think about what I just said, and think about what you're feeling. Is your feeling, gosh, it sounds like Valerie's going to be reunited with her family again, because there's a paying attention, they're aware of it, so they're using things, there's technology, there's drones, there's whatever else they're doing. Sounds like Valerie's going to be okay. Or are you thinking, poor old Valerie, something's going to get her, it's probably going to make it. Because that emotional response is probably your response to this idea of hope. Last week I quoted Thomas Aquinas, as everybody does, defining what hope is. And what he says is that he says hope is the expectation of a difficult but possible future good. Hope is the expectation. Hope is the emotional response to a difficult but possible future good. What I would offer is hope, like every other virtue, is something that is cultivated and developed. Because our natural response to things may not necessarily be that way. We have maybe trained ourselves from experiences that we've happened in our life over and over again. There's people that say, when you're served lemons make lemonade, or you may be one of those people that send the lemons back and say, I didn't order lemons, or the cup is half full, half empty, whatever the case may be. But all of that has to do with our idea of how we see the world that we're living in and the response that we take. And this is actually an old idea that continues to evolve. And so again, Emma Curtis Hopkins would say, our good is our God. The good that we are seeking, it is the thing that is most important to us. Last week I talked about St. Augustine, who in the 4th century wrote the first memoir and record, The City of God. And well, actually, Confessions is what he wrote. He wrote The City of God is something else. But in the City of God, what he proposes is that there are two worlds. It's kind of like that science fiction book, The City and the City. You know, there are two worlds. There is the city of the divine, and the people that live in the city of the divine, their focus is on the good. And there's the city of man. And the city of man, the residents in the city of man think of themselves. So there are those whose God is the good, and there are those whose God is themselves. Now, my guess is if you are like me, you spend more time in one than the other, but you probably have, passports or residence or some way to travel from one world to the next or one city to the next. And so the question is, which city are you spending more time with? The one that is focused on just yourself and what we can do and what we have done, or the focus on the good? What is the good and where that goes, or the hopeful, or whatever that may be? Thomas Merton says this. He says that, I have come to think that the care of the soul requires a high degree of resistance to the culture around us, simply because that culture is dedicated to values that have no concern for the soul. That in order for us to pay attention to the world that we live in is to pay attention to the culture that we're around, because chances are the world in which we live doesn't necessarily care for the development of our soul. With that, I also thought of something else about little Valerie the dog, which is this, is that Valerie is explaining something that I think is very interesting, how adaptable and how capable she is of survival that we may not necessarily be able to as a species. Kurt Gray wrote a book called Outrage, which I'm kind of breezing through right now, and he makes a very interesting premise. In his book, Outrage, what he says is, and I'm adding this part, but because I remember reading this when I was a kid, and I'll date myself here. Anybody remember Desmond Morris's The Naked Ape? That book was out like in the 60s or the 70s. He was an anthropologist, I think, but man was born with an axe in his hand, blah, 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 blah. So the thought was that we as a species are predatory by nature. Except research shows that our ancestors probably weren't predators. They more likely than not were prey. And so our response to the world is more from a level of safety and protection than it is for advancement and predatory things. So here's another thought for your imagination. Just imagine yourself that you're alone in the woods some night, strip yourself down to whatever feels comfortable, and listen for the first twig breaking in the dark. And what is your response? We are prey. And so our natural response is to protect. And the other thing about that is, as a species, we're pretty vulnerable. I think about that, when we walk the dogs early in the morning, and it's cold early in the morning, and the dogs are really frisky because they're enjoying it because they're wearing fur coats. We're bundled up, and it's a different kind of, we've got all this preparing to do. They're like, who wants to go for a walk? They're at the door ready to go. Who wants to go for a walk? Andrea's putting on her coat and her socks and doing this, and I'm getting my hat and my coat and whatever the case may be. There's all these things that we need to do. So in this book that I'm reading, Galileo's Error, there's these people, and they're in a very difficult situation, but I think it's salient to the point. They say, The two things that cause us as a species to survive are technology and teamwork. Because without those two things, Valerie doesn't have technology. Apparently she doesn't even have teamwork. She's got other resources, but put yourself in Valerie's paws and see how long you would be there. Because we don't survive without technology. And that could be making clothes, building a house, wrapping ourselves around something, having a knife, whatever the case may be. We don't survive without those things. But the other thing is we don't survive without teamwork, without other people. We are a social creature. We are not designed, I was thinking of the difference between cats and dogs, my favorite joke. You know the difference between a cat and a dog? You feed a dog and the dog says, he feeds me, he must be God. You feed a cat and you feed the cat and the cat goes, he feeds me, I must be God. Because, cats are pretty good as a solitary creature. They're all right. If you're not in the house, they're pretty okay with that. Dogs are pack animals. They're kind of like, if you leave them, they're on hold until you get back. We're kind of the same way. I mean, it doesn't mean that some of us are not introverted or extroverted or need more time, this, that, the other thing. But the bottom line is, as a species, as a being, we don't survive without each other. So the question then comes is, how do we survive? Where do we go with this? And if safety is our thing, we create societies, tribes, families that are based on that. But going back to Merton's words of being very aware of where we, of what world we spend the most time with, there's an interesting critique of a book that I'm reading on contemplation, and the author, Hart is his name, says is that we live in a culture, we don't live in a culture, but we as a species have developed as a distraction and as a defense to our fear, fascination. We see it obviously in the world today. Go to a restaurant and see who's looking at each other and who's looking at their phones, right? We are fascinated by our phones. We are fascinated what's happening in the world. Not like we shouldn't care about what's happening in Yemen or the genocide in Gaza. We should care about those things. But what happens is we become so fixated outside that we're failing to notice the conversation that's going on inside. In fact, what he talked about is this is something that the ancient Romans figured out. When they would go into battle, they would, when they would decorate their chariots, or they would do these kinds of things. If you ever seen, in the ancient world, how people prepared for war, part of what it was the costumes that they used, which were designed for fascination. Because what happens when we become fascinated is we lose our capacity to imagine. When we become fascinated, we almost become entranced in something, and we lose our ability to be in the present moment. And what I would offer is how we compare fascination with contemplation. Because when we open ourselves to contemplation, we open ourselves to a flow of information and wisdom and connection. When we are fascinated, we are isolated. When we are contemplative, we are connected. So it's about how then we develop the practice of living as a contemplative in the world. Because the bottom line is, they keep pushing back how long we have been around as a species. I think we're at 3 million years now, and we still haven't figured out teamwork that well, and there's something about our species that we keep defending ourselves and we keep getting into this. We have not kicked that level of living as a prey, living afraid, living defensively, using outrage as a defense against the fear of being so vulnerable, so that the only way other than that is the technology of virtues to cultivate a different imagination, to cultivate a different response. Because it may not be something that we naturally want to do, because we I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Maybe I was having it with you, Andrea. But it's probably a conversation that I'm having with my head, but that I share it with anybody who's listening to me at any given moment. And that is this. What has happened by design in the culture that we happen to live in today is, I noticed this with my stepfather. So my stepfather is politically like the opposite of me. And I confounded him the other day because he was going on about, what his political and particular belief system was, and I was like, that's cool. There was no fight. And I was like, the beauty, Bill, of living in the country that we live in is the ability that we can disagree on things. But what happened in our world, I've noticed, is that we have gone from disagreeing with each other to making the other the enemy. They're wrong, we're right? C.S. Lewis used to say, if the devil could have his way, metaphorically speaking, the way that the devil controls things is he just simply convinces us that we're right. Does anybody remember that Twilight Zone when the aliens arrived on Maple Street? No? Twilight Zone fans? So you remember, thank you, Paul. But anyway, all you have to do is just sow a little discord and then step back and watch people go at each other, right? All you got to do is create something that someone disagrees with. Because we're so defensive, all of a sudden, that person becomes the enemy. What if they're not the enemy? How on earth are we going to get ourselves out of this mess if we keep making each other wrong? And just breathe that in, how difficult that seems, right? Because therein lies the practice. What Norman Wurzba in his book Love's Braided Dance says is, he says, the future of hope, I believe, depends on the activation of love. Love that is inspired by the grace of this life. Love that is committed to the cherishing of our shared places. Love requires that we work to overturn programs of displacement and patterns of violation that leave people abandoned and abused. Love requires that we reject the economics that render people desperate and alone, and instead develop the capacities, above all, the sympathies and affections that will inspire people to create communities of mutual flourishing. So, the words there is not beat them, outsmart them, do this them, not activate as a way of protection, but as a way of sympathy, affection, and inspiration. I remember years ago I did something called the Forum, which was it grew out of EST, yes. Yeah, and glad I did it. Not sure I'd recommend it to anybody. It was interesting. But one of the things that has stuck with me, one of the things that they say is, and I love this, they say, in this world, and I don't know how true it is really, but we'll just use it for the conversation. In this world, you can have whatever you want, provided you have two things. First, a clear vision of what you desire. Second, the capacity to enroll other people in that vision. And the way you enroll them in that vision is to move, touch, and inspire. I like that as a technology. That how we are going to get out of the mess that we're in is not by beating anybody, outsmarting anybody, being more clever, being more forceful, being more anything, but developing the capacity to move, to touch, to inspire, to be sympathetic, to listen as to what things came up. You know, when I think of Augustine, and of course we all do, but when we think about this idea of, living from the capacity of defense and how that causes us to create the world in which we live, or to make this very personal, the relationships that we have, how do we begin to, first of all, I think what happens is we begin to see an incredible distinction between living defensively and living openly or curiously. The theologian John Caputo says it this way. He says, God's kingdom is focused on the poor and the imprisoned, the lost coin, the lost sheep, the lost son, the outsider and the outcast, the least among us. It is ironic, unruly, unroyal, that the last are first, insiders are out, and outsiders are in. It makes no sense in the eyes of the world. Because what I'm offering is a way of looking at the world that is so radical, it doesn't even make sense. Forgiveness, love, curiosity, caring, those kinds of things to the people that I disagree with, what? They're going to take advantage of me. See where defense comes in. See where protection comes in. See how we keep thinking ourselves the prey as opposed to how we are evolving. This idea between fascination and contemplation. So something that I contemplate often is this concept that comes from these ancient Hebrew stories, prayers, legends, myths. And that is, we read in the book of Genesis that we as a species have a vocation. And that vocation is that we are to be stewards of this world in that it would flourish. By the way, that vocation has not gone away. But then we have someone like St. Paul who says that all creation is suffering. And why is it suffering? It's suffering because of the choices that we make. It's suffering if we look at the environmental crisis that we're in, if we look at the polarity of societies that we deal with, if we look at all the things that are going on, it isn't because some divine presence is picking on us or wanting us to learn a lesson or something or another, or that there's something innate about us that is evil. None of that is true. Ignorant, yes. Scared, yes. Decisions we make based on fear, yes. Choices that we make, we live with, and those choices have brought us to where we are today. Now, going back to Emma, if those choices that we have made have put us to where we are today, what if we made different choices? Because it is not just our erroneous choices that affect us, but our inspired, loving choices that manifest in us, because we all live that. Look at the loving relationships that you're in. Look at the forgiveness that you experience. Look at the hope that you're able to possess. It's already there. And so then how then do we begin to create a world that is based on that? And something that happened in the discussion today before my talk was this idea of paying attention to what is going on inside. Because if everything is interconnected to everything else and nothing is separate from anything, then what you are thinking and acting on that thought is affecting the rest of us. There is no victimless thoughts, activities, and spirit. And so it is incumbent upon the world that we each as individuals strive to do our very best. And it doesn't mean that we all go out and become another Mother Teresa or, or someone like that is doing that. It's much more, I'm watching, anybody else watching White Lotus? Oh, I love that movie. I love that series. It's so much fun. It's so crazed. But there's a line that Parker Posey, and I love Parker Posey, but there's this line from Parker Posey where she's praying to Jesus that Jesus will save her daughter from Buddhism. And she says, I love that line. I'm sorry, I'm not giving a spoiler alert, but I guess what I'm trying to say in that is how each thought that we have impresses itself on everything that is unfolding. And to coin a Buddhist idea, that's not necessarily Buddhist because it's something that every mystic teaches, is you want to change the world, or you want the world to be a better place. Maybe that's a better way of saying this. We all hope for a better world. How do we accomplish that? Chop wood, carry water. It's the day-to-day things. It's not the big lofty things. It's not, saving the whales, that's important, or changing our economic system or doing any of these kinds of things. It's really about the most basic way we respond to everything and anything, because that ripples into the world, and that's how it shifts and changes. John Sweeney, who is an author that I like, and he's also a publisher that I say, he wrote this the other day. He says, if you're a writer, a plumber, a painter, and upset about what's going on in the world, go to work. Do the good you would normally do. Do the good you would normally do. It is written, and this is something that Jim said the other day. He was quoting Luther, but I'm guessing that Luther stole this from some Talmudic scholar. He says, do the good that you would normally do. It is written in an ancient Jewish text. If you have a sapling in your hand and people tell you the Messiah has come, plant the sapling and then go out to greet him. In other words, what is yours to do? Do it. As mundane as it may feel, do it. But do it not as prey, but as liberated. Do it not out of fear, but because it's joy. Do it because our vocation, our dharma, is that which is unique and special to us, and the world depends on us doing it well. So whatever it is, do it with hope, with the expectation that by doing this, you are creating the possibility of a greater future good. Thank you. Thanks, Walter.
No, it would be fitting. Thanks, Rev. That was wonderful. Just beautiful. So I'm going to take this opportunity to be spontaneous right now with one of my sing-alongs that we've sung before, but I'm going to make Rhea play this on the guitar and sing harmonies, which we've never done before. So, an example of vulnerability, bravery. It might be a K-foot. K-foot 4, G, D maybe. I love that about the stripping down to your bare minimal in the forest as this prey. The first line of this song is, there's an ancient fear creeping here. And I think that's what you're talking about, is that fear within the bones. But that chorus goes, anyone under the sun. Let's hear that. Anyone under the sun, anyone under the moon, anyone under the moon. I send my love out to you. I send my love out to you. I hope you feel some loving soon. Alright. Anyone under the sun, anyone under the moon. I send my love out to you. I hope you feel some loving soon. There's an ancient fear creeping here. There's an air of yesteryear. It may never disappear. Let's draw these lines so very clear. Anyone under the sun, anyone under the moon. I send my love out to you. I hope you feel some loving soon. They know just how to make us fight. Our evolution's black and white. The truth is where you shine your light, so we can see who has the right. Anyone under the sun, anyone under the moon. I send my love out to you. I hope you feel some loving soon. They say we got these separate ways, then you watch how power plays. Now all I know and all I see is I am you and you are me. Anyone under the sun, anyone under the moon. I send my love out to you. I hope you feel some loving soon. One more time. Anyone under the sun, anyone under the moon. I send my love out to you. I hope you feel some loving soon. Oh yeah. Give it up for Rhea, everybody. Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Walter.
Walter wants to sing.
He's always singing. Walter's always singing. Walter knows where the joy is at.
Oh, yeah, no worries. Thank you, Lee, Jim, and thank you, Rhea, for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
For having me.
You bet. It's always fun to follow music because I'm feeling it. I hope you are too. River Guy, thank you. You are a weaver of words and ideas and heart and mind. It's just a little boggling for me, but I always enjoy it. And I really like the way you took the question that we started with and made your whole talk kind of be a fabulous expression of that. And I have one thing to add about the question is one way that I find a way to feel liberation and embody joy is by praying. And so I'm inviting you kind of a little bit after we eat, there'll be a prayer circle. So you're welcome to come to that. And I also want to say that the classes we teach are really transformational, and I encourage you to take any class, but especially the one you're talking about on spiritual practices. I've taught it a few times. I imagine you've taught it many times, and each time, don't you find you're looking to put a new twist on it, maybe find something that's relevant or interesting, or so I really encourage you to take that one because by spiritual practice we get to really show up in our world, in ourselves. So this is our time. We call it conscious giving, and I listened to Reverend Guy's, I guess, appeal last week, which I thought was beautiful. We had a major plumbing repair, and I know that this building is very old, and it's had plumbing issues for a long time. So I am just so grateful that they're fixed. And water represents in feng shui and really in life just flow, right? And so I am just knowing that the Hilltop Center is prospering by having the water flow freely and under our discretionary control. And I'm inviting you, if you feel it in your heart, to contribute to that flow by replenishing our savings through your tithing, through your giving. It really makes a difference. And we're just so happy you're here. We're happy for what you give and all the different ways you give. And if you feel called to just give a little more financially to the center, we are so grateful. So thank you so much.
People coming through, coming through, coming through. People like you and you and you. You didn't have to, but you do, but you do. You keep on coming through, coming through, coming through. People coming through, coming through, coming through. People like you and you and you. You didn't have to, but you do, but you do. You keep on coming through, coming through, coming through. Yeah, you. Yeah, you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm singing
All righty. So a couple things. First of all, yes, as Craig mentioned, he has he will be doing the prayer circle a little bit, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes after service in the Emerson room. So if you would like to get prayer with Craig and pray with him today, this is a fabulous opportunity to do that. Please also know that there's practitioners available. Paul's here, Liz is here, Andrea's here. They're practitioners. Laura's here too. So they will be happy to pray with you. Just ask them to pray with them. Laura is starting to show up on Sundays, and she is available for children. If there are people that you know that would like to come, but they have small children or they have children and they would like to have an hour off, Laura will be here to, and she's done children's programs forever. So we have that available now. She's showing up to be there for that. So that's going on. Rhea, thank you so much for being here. Please come again. We would love to have you. Yeah. And of course, for Jim and Lee, always. Craig, it's always good to have you on the platform. Yep. And Jeff, thank you always. It's good to have you there. We're doing the sound and all that. Walter, you sound great, man. Thank you in the virtual world for showing. Thank you guys for being here. Visit the gift store. There's good things going on. There's a barbecue going on outside. I also want to just the greeters this morning. Let's see, who was greeting this morning? Henry was greeting this morning, and the family there over there was greeting. So after I'm done talking, you know, I can be so interesting and I think I do an okay job when I do a Sunday talk, but afterwards I'm like Rain Man. So I'm thinking I'm looking at Bob and I'm going, who is he? What's his name? And Matt, thank you very much. So if I've missed somebody, Mark has done a great job on the Rose Garden, by the way. If you haven't seen the Rose Garden out there, just give it a look-see. There, if I've forgotten somebody, it's only because I've forgotten them and not because I'm avoiding them. I think that's it. Is it? Have I forgotten anything? Oh, yes, you. Dan, you want to, did you want to say something? 30 seconds? That'll make it 90? But yeah, hold me to it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for this. I just want to say that there's always seeds that get planted in here when I come to these groups, and being moved, touched, and inspired. And that's what I want to do. That's what got me today. That's the seed that he planted today. And so on that note, I want to let you know that I'm starting a group. It's starting Tuesday night, the post-election support group for those struggling in the aftermath of the election results and its unfolding. And I'm coming into this from the point of view of being a practitioner and as a person. And what I see is there's a collective of people, masses of people, shell-shocked like lightning rod hit them, and are really alone in carrying this inside of them. And it's exacerbated by the fact that we're carrying it around and we're not talking about it and connecting with other people about it. So that's what is going to be happening on Tuesday night. So Hope to
Beautiful.
see you there if you fit one of those people. Thank you. I went over 30 seconds.
Thank you. So make sure that you give Kurt and Deanna some love. They got a big barbecue waiting for us outside there, and Walter can't wait. So with that, let us pray. So again, just considering there's one life, that divine presence which pervades all things because all things proceed from that presence. The unnameable, the unknowable, the most intimate that there is. So we just open ourselves to that expression as it reveals itself personally to each and every one of us. But as it does, may it fill us all with wonder and amazement and surprise. May that lead us into a place of reverence for this thing called life. And may that guide our actions accordingly. So we let it be, and so it is.
Your love is lifting me higher than I've ever been lifted before. So keep it up and quench my desire. I'll be at your side evermore. You know your love keeps on lifting me, yeah, higher and higher. You know your love, it keeps on lifting me higher and higher. Now once I was downhearted, disappointment was my closest friend. But you came along, Walter, soon it departed. And he never showed his face again. You know your love keeps on lifting me, yeah, higher and higher. You know your love keeps on lifting me higher and higher. So glad that I finally found you. You're that one in a million girls, and with my loving arms around you, I could go out, face the world, and you know your love keeps on lifting me, yeah, higher and higher. You know your love keeps on lifting me higher and higher. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
Thanks, Ria. Happy Sunday, everyone. Thanks, Ria. Thanks, Jim Jones. Thanks, Jeff. Beautiful. So fun. Me neither.